So Javier, could you introduce yourself to us, to the audience?
Yes, so I'm Javier García. I'm a mainly international journalist. I was working in many countries around the world, in Africa, in Latin America, in Europe, in Middle East, and in Asia.
We've heard that you have published 2 versions of your book, which is called China, Threat or Hope, The Pragmatic Revolution. Can you introduce your book to the audience?
And yeah, I tried in this book to understand why the Western press try always to paint China as a threat, and why China, in my opinion, is more a hope. No? What of the big achievements of China could serve as a model for the world, for the developing countries overall, to fight against poverty, to develop an ecological civilization or an ecological development, and to search for the common prosperity for all people.
Okay, so now let's talk about ecological development and ecological civilization. So you open the chapter on ecological civilization with a quote from Baijuyi's poem, Sunset and Moonrise on the River. So what inspired you to include that poem?
Yeah, I find that poem is really wonderful, right? That is, it describes very well a moment of happiness and harmony of the man with the nature, contemplating the nature, no? And contemplating the day during the sunset, and then the night during the moonlight. No? In only 4 verses, he describes the whole passing from the day to the night. No? A strip of water stretches off into the setting sun. It's the water which stretches into the setting sun, but the setting sun is reflecting in the river. No? And then half of the river is emerald, half is red. And then I love the 3rd night of the 9th month. The dew is like a pearl, the moon like a bow. It's very beautiful how he described that. And I think describes very well, represents very well this moment of harmony between the man and the nature. No? And I think this is really wonderful how this poet achieved to represent this image.
Yeah.
And regarding the Chinese philosophy, related to ecological civilization, I think the Chinese way of life and way of thinking during millennia, also since thousands of years, has a lot to do with the nature. No? How Chinese, because China was an agricultural land, no? Agricultural civilization, and yeah, all the people in China were used to live on the land, in the countryside, and try to adapt to nature, no? To profit the best way to adapt to nature. And they channel the rivers, they try to improve the harvest with different methods, but always adapting to nature with this pragmatic approach of Chinese people. So I think Chinese culture is very close to nature, and in some way Chinese culture is also ecological, because if you read the ancient Chinese philosophers like Lao Tzu or Confucius, you will always see images of the nature, no? In their ideas. No? They express their ideas also comparing with the nature, no? With elements of the nature. No? And also in Chinese poetry, you have always the nature present. No? That's why I think Chinese culture is very close to nature, Chinese society, and even Chinese characteristics are in some way ecological. Also now China is a reference for the world in green policies, that is clear.
Yeah. So what initiatives has China taken in the realm of ecological governance?
Yeah, China has taken a lot of initiatives. No? First, the cleaning of the air. No? The change of mentality of the politicians in China regarding the ecological problems was radical. No? It was a big change in the mentality and the conception of the politicians. And the air, not only in Beijing, in all Chinese big cities, is now clear. Also, we have every day clear and blue skies, and not anymore contaminated or polluted days. Very, very rare we have now. No? That is first. Then, of course, the reduction of the emissions. This is also a cause of that, of the air cleaning, and the compromise of China to reduce the emissions and to achieve carbon neutrality in 2060. That is also very important. And also what China has done in alternative energies like wind energy and solar energy is amazing. China is leader now with a big distance in solar energy and wind energy, also in hydroelectric power, hydroelectric energy, and also in experimenting with nuclear fusion energy, which is also very clean, in contrast to the fission energy, nuclear fission energy. And also what China has done with electric vehicles, the use and the production of electric vehicles, the batteries, the points of recharge for the electric vehicles, also has no comparison in the world. And China is exporting now, the Chinese companies are exporting electric cars to the world. The big leap forward with the electric vehicles is amazing, and also electric buses. You have a lot of electric buses in many big cities in China, and of course the reforestation. Also China has doubled the green surface in the last 40 years. It was 12%, now it's 24% of the land in the country is covered by forest. Also, hundreds of millions of trees are planted each year in the country, and this reforestation politic has no comparison in the world. China is responsible for a quarter of all the world reforestation since the beginning of this century. And that has avoided that the desert, the Gobi Desert and other deserts accelerate and take more land in China. Now has stopped the desertification, which is a very important problem in China.
Yes. Can you share 3 examples about China's endeavors in ecological civilization?
Saihamba is a good example. No? At the beginning of the 60 years, so a group of Chinese youngs, also quite 400 Chinese youngs from 18 different provinces came to Saihamba, a place where before it was an oasis, but at this time was really desertified, and they tried to reforest the zone. No? And they work under very harsh circumstances, in a very cold temperature, very cold winters, frozen, only living in tents because there was nothing there. But after many failures, they achieved to grow plants and to grow trees there. And now this area is an amazing and enormous green forest that fight very well against the desertification.
Yeah, that's very impressive. I've heard about there's tree planting app that you wrote about in the book.
Yeah, there is a tree planting app from Alipay, from the forest, which has a lot of users in China, and they give you, if you have good attitudes, ecological attitudes, so if you buy ecological products or have an ecological way of life, if you run bicycle or have some kind of attitudes which are green and ecological, they give you points, no? And with these points you can plant a tree. The application plant a tree for you in your name in some part of China, no? And they planted already millions of trees, no? Because they have millions of users that are using this app for ecological purposes.
Yes, that's another example for e-commerce companies to actually contribute to ecological civilization. Because it's very impressive for them to do so, because they have so many customers. So they can use the app to help with this ecological development, which is very impressive.
Yeah, that demonstrates that the people cares about nature, and if you give them the means to do something for the nature, they can do it. They are willing to do it.
Yes.
The problem is normally they don't have the means, but it's good that the technological companies are giving them the means, the tools, to make also their contribution to the nature. No?
Yes.
That is really good, and it's an example also for the world, no? For other companies in the world. No? If you give the people the tools to have a sort of contribution, they can do it.
Yes, so you actually interviewed Yu Kongjian, who is the creator of the theory sponge city. So what's your take on the sponge city?
Yeah, sponge cities is a kind of amazing idea, no? Which are present now in many cities in China. No? Jude is a wonderful man and very enthusiastic, had this wonderful idea to convert the cities in sponge cities because the great floods, the inundations and so that occur with the climate crisis more often, and the droughts too, are problems that we have to solve. No? And the sponge cities, what they do is to retain the water when there are floods, they retain the water, they clean it, and they can reuse the water in periods of drought. No? And this project is based in creating in the center of the cities, normally lie down big areas of wetlands and parks. No? And these areas help to retain the water, clean the water and reuse it in times of drought. No? And now the sponge cities are quite everywhere in China, and it's a very good model also in this path to go from an industrial civilization to an ecological civilization, because we have to change in the same way as we change from an agricultural civilization to an industrial civilization. Now we have to transform our industrial civilization in an ecological civilization. And China is really in this path with clear objectives to achieve this path and to transform the civilization in a green one and ecological one.
Yes, you close the chapter talking about water is a key to Chinese civilization. So the sponge city concept really does use water and to build a more ecological society.
Yeah, water is very important, of course, for life and for everything in the world. No? And if you have an ecological point of view, it's very important to manage well the water. No? And the Chinese have a millenary history of managing the water, no? Because you have two very big rivers, you have a lot of rivers, but two very big, and you have to channel it to fight against the flooding, no? And to irrigate the cultivations, and so you have to manage always the water during your history, no? During thousands of years. And this wisdom of Chinese ancient traditional agriculture is very useful now for building an ecological civilization. And the sponge cities is an example of that, because they are using ideas and instruments of ancient Chinese agricultural wisdom.
Yeah, that's true. So what expectations do we have for China, especially for ecological civilization, ecological development in the future?
I think China is on a very good path now to continue building ecological civilization, because really I saw that it's in the mind of all the administrations in the country, the local administrations, the regional and the central government. And quite every politic in China has a green aspect, an ecological aspect. And I think with the conditions of China now, the country is really in a very good place to show the world how a country can build this kind of civilization.
So what else do you want to conclude on ecological civilization?
So if China achieves ecological civilization, it will be an amazing success for China and for the world, because it will mean that China succeed in transitioning from industrial civilization to an ecological civilization where the man and the nature could live in harmony. And that is very important in this world threatened by the climate crisis, and we have to find a solution, another way to live in this world without polluting the world, without changing the climate, and so to live in harmony with nature.
Thank you for sharing your insights. So now let's talk about pragmatism in China. In 1919, the founders of American pragmatism, John Dewey, he came to China. So do you think this acceptance by the Chinese cultural community has to do with its strong affinity with Confucianism in Asia?
Yes, so John Dewey was very interested in China because China was already very pragmatic, before him and before Americans invented or created pragmatism. The tradition of pragmatism in China goes really long away, far away in time. It's a millenary tradition because Chinese try to adapt to nature, also channel the rivers to avoid floods or improve the cultivations, trying always as an agricultural civilization to adapt to the condition of nature in a practical way, to achieve the best solution that they could found. And we're always interested in finding the best solutions for the life, and not to speculate or create theories about why the things happen. They were not so interested in why the things happen, more for what the things are useful. What can we do in a practical way to solve this problem that we face now? And they apply this kind of thinking and act in every science and every problem that arise in life.
So what's your insights on Confucianism? What else do you want to talk about?
Yeah, Confucianism is really present in China. The idea of harmony, the idea of the man, the human being is good in itself, but it needs to be educated. Through education, you can achieve the best results in the behavior of the human beings. And education is very important. And then the man should act in a good way. Also, he has not to hurt others, has not to do others what they don't want the others to do themselves, right? Also, it's very important to act well with the others and to act in a collective way, searching for the harmony.
So could you share more about the decentralization of public administration?
It's related to Chinese pragmatism, right? But because Chinese pragmatism, as I told you, is a millenary tradition in China, and overall in 1978, when the reform and opening up process began, it was applied to public administration too, and to decentralize the administration and to put more capabilities and more power in the local functionaries, in the local administrations. They had more responsibility to search for the best solution in his villages or their regions. So from the top up, from the bottom of the administration, they were guiding the way, but the concrete solution was the responsibility of the local officers, right? With the specific problem that they faced. It's the same as in the poverty alleviation, the precise focus, precise approach. You close to the ground know exactly what is the best solution for any problem. And that is this kind of decentralization that happened in China, so that give more power to the regional and local administration to create the conditions for growth, for improve the life of the people, for development.
In your book, you mentioned Shenzhen as a Chinese socialism's model city. Could you provide more insights on Shenzhen?
Yeah, Shenzhen is one of the famous pilot experience in China to prove something that if something could work or not. And in this case, Shenzhen is the model of the socialist city for the future. Shenzhen was also very important during the reform and opening up process, because Shenzhen was a fishing village in the 70s. Also in the last 14 years it developed to a modern metropolis, a very big city, and the capital of Chinese innovation, technology, new technology, and talent in China, right? And that's why now Shenzhen is chosen to be the socialist model city for the future. And also it's a very innovative city with a lot of high-tech companies. Also it's this central headquarters of companies like Huawei, Tencent, BYD from electric vehicles, and all the startups, medium and small-sized startups, are based also in Shenzhen, most of them in China. No? And 90% of them are private companies, not state companies. This is the only case in China. So many enterprises are private in Shenzhen, 90%, this is a lot. So this is really a niche for talent, no? A niche for talent and for innovation, creativity and capacity that could be really demonstrate how the socialist city of the future could be. You know? And now with the cooperation with Hong Kong, because they are very close, Shenzhen and Hong Kong, and Shenzhen is specialized in high technology, and Hong Kong is specialized in financing. So they can cooperate very well, and the synergies of both with financing the technology sector could work very well together.
Yes, Shenzhen has developed really fast. So could you share more about the reform and opening up, and also the pragmatic mentality that Deng Xiaoping brought to China?
Yeah, Deng Xiaoping really highlighted this pragmatic tradition of China. No? He said, we have to seek the truth from facts, no? And practice is the sole criterion of truth. No? Let's try to find the truth in the practice. No? Even he says that it's the same if the cat is black or white. The main thing who gets the mouse. No? He even said, crossing the river, feeling the rocks. No? So you have to feel always what are the problems. No? And if you feel it really, then you can solve it. No? And he was really a great impulser of Chinese pragmatism after the beginning of reform and opening up. And it made it flexible, very adaptive, no? Because it was not fundamentalist, you know. The problems that arise, Chinese people were searching the best solution. If the best solution works, it's adapted. If it doesn't work, it will be refused, no? But it's according to the practice, according if it works or not. It's not an ideological fundamentalism. Is more flexible. It's like the bamboo, no? It's really a flexible way to approach problems.
Yes, that's true. So could you share more examples of Chinese pragmatism?
There are a lot of examples, no? In any way of Chinese life and politics, no? From air pollution or green development, common prosperity, in any politic of China, pragmatism is applied. So any decision, first it will be proof. It will be assessed if it's good or not in a specific place of the country. If it works, then it will be extended for the whole country. And in this case, we have a lot of experiments. Now, China normally have more than 70 pilot projects, like Shenzhen as the socialist city of the future, have a lot of pilot programs regarding different questions. No? Zhejiang, for instance, is the pilot zone for common prosperity in China now, and it was also the case with the one-child policy. For instance, it was gradually adopted. The elimination of the one-child policy was gradually done. No? First, you can have 2 children and 3 after some years, always gradually. No? If it works well, then we go on the next step, but always with prudence and gradually and in a practical way, in a pragmatic way.
Yes, that's true. How does Chinese pragmatism differ from that in Western countries?
So Western pragmatism is more short-sighted. I mean, the Western politicians are always very worried in the short term if they win the elections or not, so they don't look at the long term. No? And Chinese pragmatism is much more focusing on the long term and the best solution for a long term and the most effective solution. So Western pragmatism is also more individualistic, and Chinese pragmatism is more secular, also is more practical, I would say. It's more oriented in solve quick the problems with a long-term view, but resolving quick in an efficient, very efficient way. I think Western pragmatism is also good, but it's not so applied in politics. It's more a theory, more than being applied in politics and in measures to improve the life of the people.
Do you think Chinese pragmatism is the benefit for all? They think about the benefit for all and not only themselves?
Of course. Yeah. Also, Chinese pragmatism always search the best solution for all, the collective solution, no? In contrast of individualism of Western pragmatism, Chinese pragmatism is collectivist, no? Thinks of the best solution for all, no? The common prosperity, the best solution for all, for the whole society, not only for a few individuals or a few groups in the society or the wealth people or something like that. It's the benefit for all.
Yeah, so you talk about a main topic in your book, which is also your title, the pragmatic revolution. So do you think China is undergoing a pragmatic revolution? It is a way to achieve the Chinese modernization?
Yeah, I think it's also a way. Of course, not losing inside the socialist or communist ideas of the Chinese system to achieve the common prosperity for all the people, no? Not for a group of people or so, but in a pragmatic way, of course, in a flexible way. No? We have this main objective, no, of socialism and communism to share the wealth, but to achieve this wealth, we have to be pragmatic. We have to think in the best way to grow, to develop, to achieve the wealth that later we can share among the people.
Yeah, it's about the balance.
Yeah.
You have to achieve the balance. It's in Chinese thinking. And also it's also about the people and nature in every way, which is Confucianism talks about. Yeah, the balance that we Chinese people do emphasize on.
That is very important, the balance, yeah. Always the moderation, the balance, right? And yeah, the balance between men and nature, the balance between wealth, no? Poor people and rich people, and also the balance of the peace, I mean, the peaceful development, no? That is very important, no? Peaceful development, pragmatism, common prosperity, and ecological civilization. I think these are 4 keys of Chinese modernization.
Yeah. Do you think Chinese people overthink sometimes, or they just want to be pragmatic? They have to think about all aspects. Because I feel like people talk about, when they're talking about Chinese people, they say they overthink sometimes, or they think about everything. They want to achieve, that point of balance.
Yeah, maybe they think quite a lot about the balance, not to find the balance, but they act also very quick. So I don't have the feeling that Chinese people think a lot. I have more the feeling in the West that the Western people thinks a lot, no? But I mean, Chinese people are acting people, no? They think, okay, but they are quick in thinking and finding the best solution for the problems, but they like to act, no? To do things.
Yes, and they act quick, the Chinese speed, right? Which is emphasized in the media, that's true. So what else do you want to conclude on pragmatism in China?
I think pragmatism is a really very good inheritance of China, no? Traditional and also modernized through the Communist Party in the recent years to achieve the best solution that China can find to modernize the country, to develop the country, and to set the prosperity among its people. I think in this way the world can learn a lot from Chinese pragmatism because it's very flexible, it's not dogmatic, it's not fundamentalist, and it's a very good way to solve the problems in searching the best solution also in the different levels of the society. The local levels, the more close to the earth, is very good to change, to search for a precise solution, a solution adapted to the local circumstances in any place of China. And that is what China managed to do, no? To apply pragmatism in different levels of the society.